Hi, I'm a higher ed CMO, and I have a confession to make. While issues around recruiting and retaining diverse students and providing an inclusive experience to them are really, really important to me, I don't know it all when it comes to recruiting Latinx and African American students and other students from populations of color. That's why I'm excited about today's conversation with Christian Ponce, where we're going to discuss how to start a multicultural marketing program at your institution. Welcome to Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO, the podcast designed for higher education marketers. I'm your host, Jaime Hunt, and I am so excited to have this opportunity to share insights and inspiration. With Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO, I'm designing a different kind of podcasting experience. With each episode, I'll be bringing in a guest for a deep dive into the challenges and joys we all face in higher education marketing. After each episode, you can join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag HigherEdCMO. I would love to see this become like a book club, but for a podcast. And be sure to follow me on Twitter at JamieHuntIMC. That's JamieHuntIMC for more opportunities to connect. I am so happy to be here with Christian Ponce, who's the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications at Miami University and a great expert on multicultural marketing. Hi, Christian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Happy to be here.
If you listen to the last episode, you'll know that the looming enrollment cliff is providing a lot of challenges to higher education in the next couple of years, and recruiting students from multicultural backgrounds is not going to be just something that some universities do. It needs to be something that all universities are engaged with in order to survive, I think, and thrive as the demographics of our country change. So I'm happy to have Christian here, and I'm just going to start right off with, tell us a little bit about your career journey, Christian.
Thank you, Jamie. Yes, I was born in Honduras, Central America, and I came to the United States as an international student and to pursue an American college education. At the time, little did I know that that would turn into me launching a career in marketing and advertising in the United States. My family owned an advertising agency called IPC in Central America in the 60s and 70s, and that was one of the first agency networks. And so when I was little, I remember hearing records of jingles in my house and hearing tales and stories about the ads and the accounts and the clients. So I knew that somehow my life would be tied, my professional life would be connected to advertising. So I always knew that I wanted to do that. When I graduated from college in the States, my first job was a bilingual admission counselor. And one time, working for a small private college, and the president of the college took a liking of me because he spoke Portuguese. And I spoke Spanish. So when he knew that I was working on my master's degree in integrated marketing, he's like, "What are you doing in admissions? You got to be in marketing." So he promoted me to assistant director of marketing, and that was my first job in marketing. Then the agency who had the account met me, and I met him, and they hired me. And I moved to Indianapolis, and that launched an advertising agency business. And I was in that for about 10 years. And then we all know about the recession of 2008. By then, I decided to go back into higher ed. One of my clients was a university. And again, the president of that university said, "Hey, things are tough, but I want you to hire you." So I was hired as director of university communications, and that was my first job as a director of communications in a university.
So you have just a great background in higher education and ad agencies that I think probably give you a very unique perspective. When you think about, the 20-year-old Christian who came to America, did you envision that you would be having a career in higher education at that time?
I did not at all. I had no idea. It was something that happened, and it happened in my life, and I took advantage of the opportunity.
That's awesome. So at Miami, which I think by the time you listen to this episode, I will no longer be employed at Miami. For those that don't know, I'm recently left for the inaugural VP of Strategic Communications and Chief Marketing Officer at Old Dominion University in coastal Virginia. But Christian works with me at Miami, and we launched a pilot approach for multicultural marketing. And so I wanted to talk to Christian because he really spearheaded that, about what that approach has been.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. One of the things that we quickly agreed on was that marketing doesn't happen in a vacuum, especially multicultural marketing. So we assembled a team of professionals across the university from different departments, different offices, and we call it the Multicultural Marketing Consulting Group. These are people that come from enrollment management, from different offices, from advancement, etc., from the regionals. And together what we do is we came together and, number one, try to assess what are the services that the university offers to support students from diverse backgrounds. Then we also talked about, okay, now that we know that we want to reach out to these communities, what are the cultural nuances and potential cultural barriers that we might face? And based on that approach and on market research, quantitative and qualitative, we put together strategy to reach out to multicultural market segments. And we were able to launch our first multicultural marketing campaign as part of our entire marketing campaign for the university.
So what does that campaign look like? I know the answer to that because I work with you, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about what that first pilot campaign included?
Absolutely. So part of our brand as a whole did a lot of competitive analysis research. We hired with company, and they did surveys in several states across the United States. And we learned that Miami University has two personality characteristics, if you will, two personas that are very strong. One is a provider. The other one is a powerful institution. Just because of our heritage, we have been around for over 200 years. So we're a public IV. So that is, people perceived us as having influence. So we know that Latinos and African Americans and people from diverse backgrounds value, number one, their identity, their culture, and they want to be empowered. So based on that, we combine our power with our being a provider, wanted to take care of someone, and we turned that into empowerment. And the campaign, the message frame for that was the power to change your world, in English, el poder para cambiar tu mundo, in Spanish, meaning that you get to work with us, we get to work with you, and together we can change your circumstances. We purchased a lot of digital ads. We did radio commercials in Spanish in urban stations as well, because it's important to also talk to the parents. And it is a family decision, particularly for Latinx communities. So that's how we executed our campaign.
You were telling me anecdotally about you went to a restaurant, a Mexican restaurant in town, and they had heard the ads. Tell me a little bit about what they had to say about that.
Yeah, that was interesting. I live in between Dublin and Oxford. So when I am in Oxford at Miami, usually eat out because I have to. So one of my favorite spots is a Mexican restaurant, and I have gotten to know everyone there, the owner, the servers, everyone. So they know me by name, Christian, and they know that I worked at Miami, and they're like, "Oh man, that's so great! You're reaching out and the radio." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've heard that radio commercials in Spanish. That's so good." And I was so excited because that's the people I want to reach out to. That's the community that I want to provide access to.
And you used my favorite word, access. I think access to higher education is so critically important. And I'm a first generation college student, which I've talked about, I think, on this podcast before. The first person, both sides of my family, to graduate from college. And I know how much a college education can completely transform your life. And it's just exciting to be part of something that is offering that access to other people.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that is particularly important with minority communities as well.
Can you tell us a little bit about the makeup of the Multicultural Marketing Committee? What kind of folks do you have on that? Is it all communicators, or is it just a broad swath of people across the institution?
I think we have a good eclectic group, I would say. We have marketers, we have communicators, but we have people that work, for example, in enrollment management and student success. We have people from the regional campuses. We have people from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. We have people from the Office of Student Inclusion as well. So we have people from different backgrounds, and that's exactly what matters in this particular case, because you won't be talking to marketers. You will be talking and speaking to people from the communities that you want to reach. And I think we have been able to represent that with this group of people. So they're professionals, but also understand those cultural nuances that I mentioned earlier that are so important for every marketer to understand.
Hey all, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO. I want to take just a quick moment to thank my friends at Nectar who made this new Enrollify podcast possible. Nectar brings affordable communications infrastructure to college campuses. It's like Slack, but for the higher ed student experience. Nectar integrates seamlessly with all major LMSs, making it easy for instructors and administrators to build emergent learning communities in all of their classes and groups without the extra work. Their focus is on boosting student engagement and reducing instructor stress by building a learning community in every classroom. By leveraging familiar technology like instant messaging channels, Nectar prepares students for the remote yet collaborative work environment of the future. You can learn more about their platform by heading on over to Nectar, that's nectir.io, and be sure to tell the team that Jaime sent you their way. One of the things that we're trying to do in UCM is improve cultural competency. Can you talk a little bit about what we have done to do that? Because I am going to confess that Christian has really spearheaded this effort. It's very, very important to me, but Christian just took the ball and ran with it on this one.
Thank you. Yes, we have created something that we call the Multicultural Series. And we bring speakers from different industries, from different professional backgrounds, to talk to us about what they do. For example, we have a person who talked on women leadership, Latinas in Ohio, for example. We have somebody who works in the governor's office. And so she talked about Hispanic issues in government or Latino issues in government. We talked to somebody from the disabilities office, for example, and we learned about the idea of disability cultural identity. There's a culture with disability issues, and there are issues that we need to understand if we're going to be able to provide access. So we talked about cultural competency. We talked about an array of issues that talked about Latinx students, African American students, et cetera, et cetera. And I think Jaime, as the country changes, I think cultural intelligence is one of those tools that we have to have in our tool bag as marketers.
Absolutely. I mean, that segues me really nicely into my next question. We know that the demographics of the United States have been changing and are going to continue to change with really significant growth in Hispanic and Latinx populations. What things do you think marketers need to think about when marketing to Hispanic or Latinx prospective students?
Oh, that's a great question. The first question they need to think about is, in my opinion, the impact that Latino communities, Hispanics, Latinx are having in the United States, in the American society. Right now, we have 61.5 million Hispanics in America. If you take a look at the sheer numbers of what that means, it means there are more Hispanics in the United States than Argentines in Argentina. Wow. There are more Hispanics in the United States than Canadians in Canada. And that's only going to grow. It is projected that by the U.S. Census that if our demographic changes continue growing, in 3 decades, by 2050, 1 out of 3 Americans will be Latino. Think about that. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if we are to remain a leader in the world as we are right now, the Latino higher education attainment is no longer a Latino isolated issue. It is an American issue. So we have to see this comprehensively, from practices in providing access to higher education to Hispanic Americans and other minorities, not just Hispanics, to understanding how to reach out to them, to be advocates about higher education in a time in which people sometimes questions the value of it. So those are some of the things that I want to think about, and that I think that from now on, no longer we need to think about, oh, let's do something for the Hispanics right here isolated, or let's do a little campaign for them. No, it needs to be something that is part of the DNA of every marketing program.
You are obviously really passionate about that, and I love that. So when you're talking about 62.5 million Hispanics, I mean, that's already almost 1 in 5 Americans is Hispanic or Latinx. That's huge, huge number. And that's a lot of buying power.
Yes, it is enormous buying power. Right now I was reading the study from the Selig Center for Economic Growth from the Terry College of Business at the University of Georgia. And the Hispanic purchasing power in the United States in 2020 was $1.9 trillion.
Wow.
It is enormous. So if you think about it in terms of the trillion-dollar economies, we would have a larger purchasing power and would be larger than Mexico. We also would be larger than Canada.
Wow.
Think about that. So we, the Latinos, when I say we, I mentioned the entire Hispanic community that comes from like 21 countries, have the purchasing power larger than Mexicans, for example.
Wow. And I mean, just beyond the fact that having access to higher education be available to everybody, that's just a moral and ethical thing to do. There's a lot of financial reasons for institutions to be thinking about this, particularly as we see the country changing. So what recommendations would you have for my listeners about exploring and dipping a toe into a multicultural marketing campaign?
Absolutely. I think that as marketers, we are tasked to find ways to communicate with our audiences and our markets. We are trained to work on segmentation analysis. That's part of our training. Well, think about such an important segment of the population, Latinos. You should be thinking about them, if anything else, like a market that will have a very significant impact in your return on investment. You need to think about in terms of the demographical shifts, right? So what does that mean? For example, I think we can assume, and I will say based on historical facts, that after the Second World War, a lot of people with the GI Bill and all of that went to college. So it became part of our middle class culture in a way that after you graduate high school, a lot of people thought college is the next logical step to go. Well, that's not necessarily true with Latinos and Hispanics. There are many cultural reasons for that. Number one, we Latinos, and I said we because I am Hispanic, value large and extended families, which means that grandma is part of the family, that your aunt and uncle are part of the family, and it's very important to remain close to them. So sometimes sending a kid to college or a student to college maybe not be as normal as one might think. So you need to be an advocate and really provide a value proposition, if you will, to propose a value statement to these families so they understand how important going to college is. And like you said, Jaime, how transformational a college education can be for one's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember reading a statistic a while ago about, that Hispanic and Latinx students are more likely to attend a college closer to home because of those family ties. Are there ways, from your perspective, to entice a student to make a longer drive or go to college farther away? Are there things that you can talk about with their parents about how they can still be successful and thrive, or is that just sort of a non-starter? That's not a conversation that people would be receptive to.
I think they would, and I'll tell you what I think they would. I am an immigrant. I came to the United States to pursue an American college education, but at the same time, I knew that with an American college education, my chances to be successful in my profession would be higher. Immigrants come to the United States for two reasons. The main two reasons are, number one, some of them are escaping violence, and we can talk, that's another conversation. We'll talk about refugees, another conversation. But a lot of them are coming here to provide a better life for themselves and their futures. They already went from one place to another. Think about that. So it makes sense for them if you have a conversation with them and say, hey, I think it makes sense for you to come to this college, even though it's far away from home, because number one, we'll provide you the great education that you need. You might be getting scholarships. And also, if you have a good location where there are good companies and good organizations that might provide good internships, that is something that needs to be a part of the conversation, because that is going to give them a competitive advantage and a head start compared to other professionals. Like, for example, Miami is close to Cincinnati. We need to be having that conversation. We need to be having conversations at our location close to major population areas, with companies, with organizations, with employers. So I think, yes, I think that even though we're talking to first generation, I call them first generation college students, first generation Americans, their parents already went through the process of going to a place far away from home.
That is absolutely fascinating. I never thought about, and I don't know why, the idea that, they've already come a great distance to make a different life for their families.
Yes.
And that's really tremendous. And I imagine that affects the mindset of a first generation student who had parents who maybe made this big leap in their lives, and that can impact their psychology around college choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting. Is it important to understand what the student experience is like for underrepresented minorities before launching a multicultural campaign, or do you just dive right in?
100%. I think that, like in any industry, customer experience, CX as they call it, is absolutely critical for any marketing program to succeed. And with populations from diverse backgrounds, it is the same. So when they come to a college, they want to know that they belong. They want to know that they will be welcomed. They want to know that they're going to make friends. They want to know that they will be supported. So that is why, for example, in our case, the multicultural marketing consulting group of these people, we need to be able to understand what we have to offer so we can prove and make brand proofs to our promises, right? If we say that you'll belong here and they come and they don't, they leave. Mm-hmm. So immediately your melt goes up. But if they find a good experience, they would, for example, for me, and this is just for my personal calling, I advise 2 Latino groups on campus. I advise Unidos, which is a Latinx group of kids with Hispanic ancestry. You don't have to be Hispanic to be a part of this group. Just love the culture and be a part of it. And I also advise Alpha Lambda, which is a fraternity and sorority, it's a co-ed, a Greek organization, also for Latinx students. Why do I do that? Because I think it's important for these groups to thrive, so when other Latino kids come to campus, they have a place to belong.
I think that is absolutely amazing. Like the idea of making sure you're not just doing the marketing, you're also trying to do the things that make sure that the students that we're trying to recruit are having a positive experience. And that's just absolutely fabulous. It's obvious that you're really passionate about this.
I am, and I have to, for some reason, the Greek name escaped because of the Greek letters, but it's Alpha Lambda Psi.
So now,
I'm still not sure.
now you're trilingual, or you already you speak French as well as Spanish and English.
I do. That was just for my personal interest and passion, but yes. I do.
I try to have Christian help me get better at my Spanish. When I graduated from college, you had to be fluent in a second language and pass a fluency exam, and mine was Spanish. But if you don't use it, you lose it for sure. So Christian, what do you think we need to be thinking about for the future of higher ed?
I think we need to be thinking about what can we do as universities or colleges to make higher education accessible. I think we need to be thinking about how can we help our own country to continue leading in the world. And by that, we means that we need to be able to provide empathetic, welcoming programs of higher ed so our professionals are well equipped and prepared to continue contributing to society. For example, who are going to be the donors of the future if 1 out of 3 Americans will be Latino? So we need to be able to be empathetic, understand their culture, and create a cultural philanthropy with them. So it needs to be a holistic approach in everything that we do. Same for African Americans, same for all kinds of people. I think that we need to be part marketers, part advocates, and educators in everything that we do. And I will repeat again that we need to be thinking about the demographical shifts that are happening right now, that they will continue to happen, and what does that mean for everything? How are we going to continue? How is higher education continue to be a force for good?
So when you think about the demographic shift and that message for multicultural audiences and the value of higher education, what do you think are some of the biggest selling points for Hispanic, Latinx audiences in that perspective?
100%. That's a great question. I love it. I think that you have to understand what their values are in life. And there is a tremendous value about family with Latinos. For example, my daughters were born and raised in the United States. And sometimes where you're asking where they're from, they'll tell you, Honduras. Mm-hmm. And they are very proud to be Americans, but they're very proud of their Latin ancestry, very much so. So understanding that is important because you can say to them, for example, by investing in higher education, you will be able to help your family. You will be able to help your parents. You're going to have a better life, and you're going to be able to help others. That has an altruistic message to it, and it's something that will resonate because they care about it.
That's really good insight. That is really good insight. Christian, any closing thoughts before we kind of give people information about how to connect with you?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity, Jaime. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Christian Ponce, and that is Christian and Ponce. You can email me at Miami. My email address is Ponce, PONCE, JC at miamioh.edu. Having this conversation is important, and I appreciate the fact that you thought about it and that you are being using this platform to allow me and others to talk about things that are important in terms of multiculturalism, in terms of accessibility, in terms of marketing to those communities who sometimes have been either overlooked or have been underserved.
Yeah. I just think this is a really important conversation, and it's really exciting to me that Miami is moving in this direction. Sad that I'm not going to be able to, watch the fruits of it start to be reaped, but I know that I'm leaving Miami in really capable hands on that perspective, and I'll probably be trying to pick Christian's brain in my new role.
Absolutely. I think that we all marketers, especially people who are very interested in multicultural marketing, have a great ally in you, Jaime.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And listeners, you can always find me on Twitter if you want to continue the conversation with me at Jaime Hunt IMC, JaimeHunt IMC. I'm also on LinkedIn under Jaime Hunt. Really, really happy to engage with people. I think if you have questions about multicultural marketing or reaching Latinx communities, Christian is definitely your guy, a great person to talk to about that, great expertise. And I'm really hoping to see some conversation around this on Twitter. You can use the hashtag HigherEdCMO to have that conversation. And I look forward to hearing from you about what you think about this episode. Thank you, Christian. It's been a pleasure. And to the listeners, have a wonderful day, and let's go bust some silos.
Hey y'all, Zach here from Enrollify. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO with Jaime Hunt. If you liked this episode, do us a huge favor and hit that follow and subscribe button below. Furthermore, if you've got just 2 minutes to spare, we would greatly appreciate you leaving a rating and a review of this show on Apple Podcasts. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, admissions, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks that are all designed to empower you to become a better higher ed professional. But Enrollify is far more than just a podcast network. Enrollify is where higher ed comes to learn new marketing skills, discover new products and services, and find their next job. We're a growing learning community of 4,000 members, and we'd love to welcome you into the fold. You can access our free blog articles, newsletters, e-courses, and more, or purchase our master course on how to market a university with Terry Flannery at enrollify.org. We look forward to meeting you soon and welcoming you into the community. Again, you can subscribe for free at enrollify.org.